Mikael, let me just start with you, if I may. You know, your operations are mainly in Northern Europe for the most part. Again, developed markets. How, if any way, is it a different approach to the stakeholder sort of responsibility and engagement there? And again, how has this evolved over the years?
Well, number one, of course, it's all a matter of where you are in the world and what kind of stakeholders you have. And of course, in our situation, we have stakeholders that are, you could say, economically advanced. Most people in kind of Sweden don't really need mining to make a living. You can make a living in other ways as well. So the stakeholders that we have will be locals. They will had the typical not in my backyard type of stakeholders. But then you also have to look away from the kind of local situation and also look at the stakeholders that you can find on a more regional or national level around what you want to develop the country and what also these minerals that are eventually going to be mined, what they're going to be used for. And there you have stakeholders that you need to manage as well.
And again, I mean, I think that concept, we see that in Europe and indeed around the world, whereby, you know, and even I think in the rush to renewables, you know, everyone's excited about it, but again, it's coming going, not in my backyard. Build it down the road.
I just heard in the last panel, people talk about what's happening in Portugal and Spain, and that's a very typical example of that. And we have similar things as well. We have good resources for lots of these critical minerals in Northern Europe, in Northern Scandinavia and Finland and so on, and you have a very strong negative local feeling about it, not in my backyard, somewhere else, but not at my place.
Mikael, when we look at, ensuring supply chain transparency, I suppose, you look at some of the work that you're doing at Boliden and expanding from production to smelting and other operations. How do you actually examine your supply chain and, make sure what's at the end of it that is sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, this is, of course, one of the most important things, to make sure that what comes out in the end is actually not just sustainable in our part of the value chain, but in the whole value chain that builds up to that. This is not a new concept, but it's gotten much more focus over the last few years. And as you know, also the EU is about to embark on legislation around due diligence and need for due diligence. And as some people sometimes joke that the EU is kind of incapable of exporting lots of things, but they're very good in exporting regulation. So if this comes true in the EU, it might very soon become true around the world, similar needs. I'm actually one that is quite positive to this development. Many are negative because they think lots of the bureaucracy has been built up. But in this endeavor, it will make things easier actually, because there will be standards and we can rely on standards. Because today, we as individual companies are fully responsible for making sure that we have due diligence in place for our supply chains. We as a company, we've done this for many, many years. We've developed methods with visits, with what are the crucial things. We have consultants that check our suppliers on the back end. We have all these metrics put in place to kind of avoid that we are being caught into something that we don't want to be a part of. But I think that this whole landscape could ease up quite a lot if there will be international standards saying that these are suppliers are okay, they've been due diligence and they can be leveraged by everybody. That will make the consultant world a little bit smaller, but we will all be happy about that. But I think there's just to come back to it, there is actually today no real shortcut. Today you have to do...
Everybody's watching.
Everybody's watching, is watching on every dimension, and you have to do the work. And it's not enough that you're good on 19 out of 20 things. You need to be good at 20 out of 20 things, because if you miss that 1 out of 20, you will get caught. And it's a lot of work, and there is no shortcut.
Mikael, you mentioned a little about, bureaucracy, regulations. That's still clearly important because the standards will help you. If you can maybe give me the quick synopsis perhaps on that, and again, that maybe call to action. What can we all do faster, quicker, and better?
No, I think that what we all need, number one, I should say that we are all feeling good to being here because we are producing what is needed to decarbonize the world. I think what we need to do more and better is to decarbonize ourselves. I think it's important for us all to step up against the global initiatives there are. I think the science-based targets is something that we all need to gear up to be able to feel that we're doing something good. And I would say that at the next generation behind that is not so much spoken about, has to do with biodiversity. I would expect that we as an industry will have to put up commitments on biodiversity to have them out soon. That's much more difficult to measure, but there will be measurements coming around there as well. And I would say that will be the next next call to action for the industry as such.